Pure energy don't come from trying to look good. It don't come from talking the loudest in the room. It's built in silence and discipline in the days nobody claps for you. When your energy is clean, life starts responding different. Doors open that you didn't knock on. Opportunities find you instead of the other way around. People feel your presence before you speak. Not because you're better, but because you're aligned. And alignment is rare. That's why it stands out. But here's the part most people don't warn you about. The same energy that attracts blessings also attracts resistance. See, blessings recognize truth. Resistance does too. When you move with purpose, you become a mirror. Your consistency reflects other people's inconsistency. Your focus exposes their distractions. Your discipline reminds them of the work they're avoiding. And most people don't want reminders, they want comfort. So instead of fixing themselves, they try to disrupt you. That's why attacks don't always come from enemies. Sometimes they come from people who watch you build quietly, people who smile while measuring your progress, people who benefited from your light, but resented the growth that came with it. Pure energy doesn't beg for approval. It doesn't chase validation. It moves forward, whether the crowd is cheering or silent. And that independence, that shakes people who need attention to feel alive. You ever notice how the more peaceful you become, the more chaotic certain people act around you? That ain't coincidence. Peace is intimidating to people who survive on drama. When you don't react, they feel powerless. When you don't explain, they feel exposed. When you don't engage, they feel invisible. So they poke, they test, they throw shade disguised as concern. They question your intentions, your character, your choices, not because they're confused, but because they're threatened by clarity. Blessings show up when your energy is pure because you're finally ready to handle them. You've done the inner work. You're not desperate. You're not forcing outcomes. You're prepared to receive without self-sabotage. That's why things start aligning. That's why timing starts working in your favor. But resistance shows up for the same reason. You're no longer available for manipulation. You don't move off emotion. You don't fold under pressure. You don't respond to disrespect with chaos. And people who used to control you through reaction, they lose access. Loss of control makes people angry. So they attack your character. They rewrite your story. They try to drag you back into old versions of yourself. Not because that version was better, but because it was easier for them to manage. Pure energy is self-contained. It doesn't leak. It doesn't need to be understood by everybody. It doesn't perform for acceptance. And that kind of self-respect triggers those who live off external validation. Here's the truth. If you're walking in alignment and nobody's resisting you, you're probably playing small. Growth creates friction. Light creates contrast. When you rise, the shadow becomes more visible. That's not a sign to slow down. That's a sign to stay disciplined. Lessons come in layers. First peace, then clarity, then momentum. And with each layer, resistance tries to test your commitment, not to stop you, but to see if you're solid. Because pure energy isn't about being liked. It's about being real. And real energy can't be fake, borrowed, or stolen. It's earned through consistency when nobody's watching. The attacks don't mean you're wrong. They mean you're effective. They mean your presence is shifting something. And anytime something shifts, there's pushback. That's life. The mistake is thinking you need to fight every battle. You don't. Your growth is the response. Your silence is the answer. Your focus is the protection. Let them talk. Let them misunderstand. Let them doubt. You don't owe clarity to people committed to confusion. Pure energy doesn't argue. It advances. And the higher you go, the less noise can reach you. Not because the noise disappears, but because you've outgrown its frequency. Blessings will keep finding you as long as you stay aligned. Resistance will keep showing up as long as you keep rising. That's balance, that's confirmation. And that's the price of walking in your purpose without apology. Attacks don't come out of nowhere. They don't just happen because people are bored or unlucky. Attacks show up when something you're doing is working. When you're moving with intention, when your focus is locked in, when your energy is disciplined, you start disrupting patterns without saying a word. You don't have to announce growth. You don't have to prove progress. The shift speaks for itself, and that's when the resistance starts leaning in. See, people don't attack what they don't notice. They don't throw stones at something that isn't rising. Nobody wastes energy trying to stop what isn't moving. So when pressure shows up, when criticism gets louder, when your name starts coming up in rooms you're not in, that's not coincidence. That's confirmation that you've crossed a line most people never reach. The mistake is thinking every attack means you're doing something wrong. Sometimes it means you're doing something right in a world that's uncomfortable with progress. Growth makes noise even when you move in silence. It changes dynamics, it shifts power. And anytime power shifts, people who benefited from the old version of you feel threatened. Some attacks are obvious. Hate, disrespect, open opposition. Those are easy to identify. But the real test comes disguised. Concern that feels heavy, advice that feels limiting, support that comes with conditions. People smiling while subtly trying to slow your momentum. That's when discipline matters. Because when attacks hit, your reaction decides everything. If you respond with emotion, you give access. If you explain yourself to everybody, you dilute your energy. If you start doubting your path, you start negotiating with fear, and fear is expensive. Attacks don't show up to destroy you. They show up to test whether you're solid, whether your foundation is real or built on applause, whether your purpose is internal or dependent on approval. When you're aligned, attacks can't stop you. They refine you, they sharpen your awareness, they teach you who's really with you and who was only around for convenience. Pressure reveals character, yours and theirs. That's why every level comes with resistance. New mindset, new friction, new habits, new pushback, new standards, new enemies. You don't elevate without triggering something. That's natural. What's not natural is taking it personal. Most attacks aren't even about you. They're about what you represent. Discipline reminds people of laziness. Focus reminds people of distractions. Integrity reminds people of shortcuts. And instead of adjusting, they aim at the reminder. You just happen to be standing there. So they question your intentions. They minimize your progress. They bring up your past like it still owns you. They try to shrink you back into a version that felt safer for them. But you didn't come this far to stay small. Attacks are confirmation that you've outgrown a space, confirmation that you're no longer available for the same conversations, the same cycles, the same limitations. When people can't access you the way they used to, they react. Loss of access feels like disrespect to insecure minds. And that's where silence becomes power. You don't need to win arguments. You don't need to defend your name. Your consistency will do that for you. Time exposes truth better than emotion ever could. Let your routine answer the questions. Let your results speak where words would fail. Every attack carries information. It shows you where the weakness is. Not in you, but in the environment. It shows you who needs distance, who needs boundaries, who needs limited access. Attacks teach you discernment, and discernment is a form of wealth. The goal isn't to avoid attacks. That's impossible if you're growing. The goal is to stay composed while they happen, to stay focused while distractions are being thrown at you, to stay disciplined when chaos is trying to pull you off track. Because once you understand that attacks are confirmation, they lose that power. They stop feeling personal. They stop feeling heavy. They become background noise, proof that you're moving in the right direction. You don't slow down when pressure hits. You tighten your routine. You protect your energy. You double down on what got you here. That's how you separate yourself from people who quit when it gets uncomfortable. Most people want the rewards without the resistance. They want elevation without isolation. They want recognition without the grind. But it doesn't work like that. Every blessing comes with a test. Every breakthrough comes with a barrier. And every attack comes with a message. You're on the right path. You're being noticed. You're no longer invisible. So don't flinch. Don't fold. Don't explain. Keep moving. Keep building. Keep becoming. Because if nobody's trying to stop you, you're probably not going far enough. Silence ain't weakness. Discipline ain't punishment. And self-respect ain't arrogance. They're armor. When your energy is pure, it's valuable. And anything valuable needs protection. Not loud protection, not aggressive protection. Strategic protection. The kind that moves without announcing itself. Silence is the first layer. Silence keeps your plans intact. It keeps your intentions clean. When you stop explaining yourself to people who don't need to understand, your energy stops leaking. Every explanation costs something. Every argument drains something. And most people don't want clarity, they want access. Silence cuts that off. When you move quietly, people can't sabotage what they don't know. They can't compete with what they can't track. Silence creates space for momentum. It lets your actions do the talking, and actions never contradict themselves. Discipline is the second layer. Discipline is structure when motivation fades. It's choosing the long road when shortcuts are available. It's showing up when nobody's watching. Discipline keeps your energy consistent. Without it, even pure intentions fall apart. Discipline separates emotion from execution. It keeps you steady when praise comes and grounded when criticism hits. It doesn't let highs inflate you or lows define you. That balance is power. That balance is rare. Most people burn out because they move off feeling. When they feel inspired, they're active. When they feel challenged, they retreat. Discipline ignores mood and honors commitment. That's why disciplined people always look calm, because they're not fighting themselves every day. Self-respect is the final layer, and it's the most important. Self-respect sets the boundary. It decides what you tolerate and what you walk away from. Without it, silence turns into avoidance, and discipline turns into self-punishment. With it, both become intentional. Self-respect means you don't beg for attention. You don't chase validation. You don't stay where you're constantly disrespected. You understand your worth even when nobody else acknowledges it. And that's dangerous to people who benefit from your self-doubt. When you carry yourself with self-respect, you change the rules. People can feel it. They know what won't work on you anymore. They know manipulation won't land. They know guilt won't control you. So they either adjust or fall away. That's why growth often comes with isolation. Not because you're better, but because your standards got higher. Your time got more valuable. Your energy got more selective. Silence, discipline, and self-respect don't just protect pure energy, they refine it. They keep it sharp, they keep it directed, they make sure it's invested, not wasted. You stop reacting to every trigger, you stop entertaining every opinion, you stop fighting battles that don't move you forward. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. The loudest people in the room are usually compensating. The most reactive people are usually unstable. The ones moving with intention don't need to announce it, they're too busy building. When attacks come, and they will silence, keeps you composed. Discipline keeps you focused. Self-respect keeps you from folding. Together, they form a system that protects your mind, your goals, and your peace. You don't need revenge. You don't need validation. You don't need closure from people who never understood you. Progress handles all that. Silence makes people uncomfortable because they can't read you. Discipline makes people uncomfortable because they can't distract you. Self-respect makes people uncomfortable because they can't control you. And that's fine. Pure energy isn't meant to be accessible to everyone. It's meant to be preserved for a purpose. When you guard it, life starts responding differently. You move clearer, you decide faster, you recover quicker. You stop wasting time proving yourself. You start investing time improving yourself. That's the shift. You don't explain your absence. You don't justify your boundaries. You don't apologize for choosing peace. You move with intention and then let results speak. Because in the long run, the quiet ones with discipline and self-respect always win. Not because they fought harder, but because they stayed focused while everyone else got distracted. That's how pure energy survives. That's how it multiplies. And that's how you protect what you worked so hard to build.